listeners, and welcome back to the Internet Marketing and Business Solutions radio show with Ron Couming of both RCS Online Solutions and RCS Technology Solutions, where we help business owners and entrepreneurs achieve even greater success by attracting, converting, and retaining their ideal customers and clients. The purpose of this show, and this is the second part, the first goes at 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. every Monday, and we sometimes we'll have on subject matter experts who will come on in the first and or second episode. And then also, if time allows, we'll give out third tips. And the reason I do this is because I want people to hear and learn from other entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs who've overcome some of the hurdles that you, as an entrepreneur, may come across. And also, these are all subject matter experts. So in whatever field they're in, you can learn. And if you're in that field, the best way that you can achieve even greater success is by not seeking advice, but seeking opinion. You don't take financial advice from your broke brother, right? You don't take exercise advice from somebody who hasn't seen a gym in 6 months, but somebody who has already been down that path that you want to go down or you're thinking of going down, and listening to them and learning from them will ultimately help you achieve even greater success quicker and avoid some of the pitfalls. And then in the third section, at time allowing, I will give away some free tips on how you can implement, whether it's video marketing or something, to help your business grow even quicker. And everything on this show is totally free. My guests don't pay to be on the show. They don't get paid to be on the show. I don't get paid to do this show. Sam, the owner of WCAP 980 AM, this is his gift to the entrepreneurial community in and around the Lowell area and whoever reaches this. So, long story short, our second guest today is Brian K. Wright, and Brian is the host of Success Profiles Radio and publisher of Success Profile Magazine. Over the last 6 years, Brian has interviewed world-class achievers such as Darren Hardy, Jack Canfield, Loral Langemeier, Kevin Harrington, Sharon Lechter, and many more. With the lessons he had learned from these achievers and through his own experience, he seeks to educate, motivate, and inspire others to become a greater version of themselves. He is the author of 3 books, including the recently released Success Profiles, Conversations with High Achievers. Brian, how are you this morning?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for having me here, Ron.
Thank you for blessing us with your presence and expertise. Now, I love you just came out with a new book, right? Conversations with High Achievers?
Yeah, this came out a few months ago. It's a series of interviews that I did on my own radio show with some of the achievers that you highlighted just a little bit ago, and I am just so happy and blessed to have been able to sit at the feet of these people for a little while and just talk to them about what they achieved and what they overcame and the lessons that we can all learn, because a lot of people will see just the glamorous things about our entrepreneurial journey, the successful product launches, the time on stage, the live events. And when I had Darren Hardy on my show, he said that constitutes about 5% of the entire journey. The other 95% is not glamorous, it's not fun, and it's really hard at times. And so when things get difficult, you just have to remember it does get better, and you have to know your strong reason why you're even doing it in the first place. I'm here to impact the world. I'm here to change lives and introduce the world to great achievers, to let people know that they can also achieve everything they want if they have their strong why, if they have a plan, if they're surrounded with the right people, and they continue and never, ever give up. That's a common theme that I think resonates along the lines of all these really successful people I interviewed, is that they persisted and they never gave up.
I love it. Now, you're out of Arizona, correct?
I am in the Phoenix area, yes.
Yep, and our first guest was from L.A., so the world is no longer limited to, people in the next block or city or, within an hour drive. So I love the technology, and I what I really love is how you just succinctly put that when we see somebody who is very successful, that's a minimum of 5, 10, 15 years in the makings. That you see them on the stage, you see them where they got nice clothes on, driving a nice car. Once in a while, somebody will come up with an idea and it will transform everything. And in 18 months, they went from zero to, $30 million or something. But, 99.99% of the time, every successful person that you see today, it took them 5 or 10 or 15 years to get there, and there was a lot of failures, or as we like to say, learning opportunities, right? So keeping that in perspective, if don't compare yourself. Wherever you are is where you are, and don't compare yourself to somebody who you see on a stage speaking. You can seek to achieve that, but don't compare yourself because you don't know. I mean, you see them there today, but that might have took them 10 years, and you're 2 years into your journey. So you're putting too much pressure on yourself. Brian, I love the list of people, and with the exception of Jack Canfield, I pretty much interviewed all of those as well. And you are surrounding yourself with some great people.
Yeah, I'm very happy and grateful. In fact, I interviewed Anik Singhal very recently, and that episode of my show is going to air today, and so I'm really fired up and excited. He just wrote a book called Escape, and he talks about what it takes to get from employee to employer or entrepreneur, and he was insightful, really bright, and he had quite a journey himself. And so this is the thing. None of these people were any more special than you and I or anyone listening. They just had a really strong why. They had a really strong desire. Napoleon Hill talks about that in Think and Grow Rich. You have to have a very strong burning desire and a burning purpose for what you're doing, and then you just never, ever give up. And Anik Singhal, for example, was $1.7 million in debt at one point in his life, but he didn't file for bankruptcy. He was committed to paying everyone back because the people that loaned him money were his friends and family. He was not going to drop the ball with them. And so he figured it out. He figured it out. And that's the difference between really successful people and people who don't achieve what they want is they are committed to figuring it out. And like you said, it's unfair for us to compare someone else's chapter 20 with our chapter 1 or chapter 2. The only difference is they figured it out sooner than we did. So there's hope for all of us.
I love it. Now, let's say some of our listeners, and I like the fact that you said that because I think some of our listeners actually, we have probably 3 levels of listeners. Somebody who is working in a business and they are actually in the marketing department, or they're in the business and they want to start their own business, but they're just a little nervous to take that plunge. Then some of our other listeners are, in fact, entrepreneurs and business owners, and they may be in an MLM, they might be doing the send by cards or whatever it is, and or they might actually own a plumbing company, or they might own an HVAC company with 6 employees. And then we might have another group of listeners that have been in business for 3 to 5 years. They're already making 6+ figures a year, but they know what got them to that level will not get them to the next level. So can you? So they've got to learn or do something differently. Could you give us a couple of tips on like all of those different levels, what people could do if and it's possible that one or more of the tips could apply to everybody?
Absolutely. I find that the greatest achievers that I've spoken to all read a lot, and not just Stephen King, and there's nothing wrong with Stephen King. I went through a Stephen King phase myself, but they read stuff that will help them become a better person, or help them become healthier, or help them become wealthier, or help them in their business, or help them to relate to people. They are constantly looking to improve themselves. So even their leisure reading, quote unquote, is designed for that. In fact, I'm reading a book by Tom Fleming right now called If You Can't Wholesale After This, I've Got Nothing For You. It's a book about how to buy and flip houses and wholesale. That's something I've never done before, but it's something I'm interested in learning more about, and so I'm reading it. And so all great achievers are very cognizant about the input that they allow, whether it's reading, whether it's what they're watching on television. I don't watch a lot of television. I don't watch the news very often. It doesn't serve me, and it doesn't make me a better person, and it doesn't advance my business. And so I'll watch or listen to motivational YouTube videos, or I will go to conferences, or I will listen to shows like this one or like mine. I will talk to amazing and inspirational people on a regular basis. In fact, I had a guest on my show who said at the very end, in his final thought, make it a goal to have a conversation with someone who inspires you every single day. I don't quite get to it every single day, but I get to it most of the time. And it makes a huge difference because you've got to be on your game. Entrepreneurship can be a very lonely path, especially if you're not married or in a relationship. If you are single and you are working at home by yourself, you have to surround yourself somehow with people who will lift you up and inspire you, because there are great days and there are days that you don't want to relive again. So you have to be very aware of what you put in your mind. The other thing that I would say is something that I already alluded to: be aware of who you are hanging around. You are the average of the 5 people that you hang around. If you are looking to become very successful in business, then surround yourself with at least 5 people who are successful in business. If you want to have an amazing body, surround yourself with people who take care of their bodies. If you are hanging around with 5 fat slobs, guess what? You will be too. It's hard to lift yourself up. It's so much easier for someone to bring you down than it is for you to lift all your friends up. And so you just have to surround yourself with people who will be at the level that you want to be and surpassing where you want to be, because you want to follow people who are doing what you want to do. You don't want to follow people who say they want to go somewhere but never have. And that's what I would say.
I love it. And the key there, too, is the action. You got to take action. I start my day almost every day. Sometimes I'll get caught up in a text right away, but, 29 out of 30 days, I'll start my day and I'll listen. Like you said, I'll go to YouTube and I will listen to either Jim Rohn's, Les Brown, or another person of that caliber, and I'll listen to them, because in the first 20 minutes when you wake up, your brain is operating at 10.5 wave cycles, which is significantly higher than the rest of the day. So that's when whatever you input will really not only sink in, but it will also set the tone for your day. So for the listeners, I encourage you, and this is free. You just go to YouTube, listen to Jim Rohn, R-O-H-N, and or Les Brown, or there are many other people out there that you may resonate with better. But start your day off that way, and I think you'll slowly, start to develop great habits, and eventually, it'll just become part of your routine. It won't even be something you think about. It'll just be something that's there. And I really like how you talked about the action. I met you at an event. Like I meet a lot of great people, because, like you said, when we go to these events, we meet other people who are taking action, who are getting up. I'm in Boston. I flew to Phoenix to go to this event, and because I knew that there would be great people there. But it's all about that, taking the action. If you go to these events and you buy a book, you get a free book, you hear something, you take some great notes, and then you don't do anything with it. In the industry, we call that shelf help. So maybe how do you think people could avoid the shelf help and start to take some action?
I think you just have to make up your mind that you have to just do something. So if you are at an event and you take notes, which I advocate that you do, review your notes on a regular basis, especially right after that event, and think of at least one thing you can take action toward that week. As I'm listening to speakers and I'm writing things down, I'll put a star or an asterisk or an arrow beside something that I thought was particularly insightful, and just take action. The other thing I also would advocate is follow up with the people that you met. So few people do that. I'll friend request people on Facebook or on social media, or I'll chat with them, say, hey, I really enjoyed meeting you at the event, and I'll ask to have a phone call with them sometime during the following week so that we can just keep up. In fact, at this last event, there are several people that I am keeping up with, and I'm happy and grateful, and I'm glad that some of these people are local, and so I have a chance to actually meet up with them again. It's really fantastic. So you have to make the most of it. And here's the other thing, too. I go to events now with a different purpose than I used to. Now that I have a business, I am looking for opportunities to help people. For example, I ghostwrite books, and so if the conversation get steered toward the idea of reading a book, and I never manipulate the conversation. If someone doesn't even ever bring it up, I don't either. I just want to hear their story and listen to what they're doing. But if that opportunity comes up, I'll say, hey, by the way, I do this, and we see where the conversation goes. If someone asks me for a business card, I don't currently carry business cards, but I do publish a magazine. So I have probably 25 or 50 copies in my office laying around of various issues. I take a dozen of them with me. And so when someone asks me for a card, I'll say, I don't have a card, but I have a magazine. People will remember that. They'll throw a card away, but they're not going to throw a magazine away. So they'll read it. They may reach out to me, or they may ask, how can I be a part of this? And that's totally fine. But it's an opportunity to keep people in my world. You want to be memorable. That's the other thing, too. When you go to events, you want to make sure people don't forget you. And in a good way, not in a bad way. A lot of people make really horrible impressions because they're shoving their card in your hand, call me if you need me, and I really have no idea yet what you do after 5 minutes of talking to you. And that's not a great impression. Be remembered for the right reasons. Having something tangible like a magazine, for me, helps me stand out because people remember me. And I love that. So have a reason that you're going to the event. Meet people, listen to the speakers, network with the speakers, be memorable, and go to give and not to take. You will be so far ahead of the game if you do that.
I love it. And I want to let the listeners know that, if you're unable to write down some notes of this interview and you're getting some real great gems here, you can go back and listen to this episode as you can all the episodes at WCAP 980 AM on their website. Just up in the right-hand corner, you'll see archives, and you just click on that, and under RCS or under Internet Marketing Business Solutions Radio Show with Ron Couming, you will see the archive here, and you can listen to this and all the other episodes, as well as going to rcstechnologysolutions.com, the Media tab, and then just scroll down to Radio Show. Brian, I'd love to get a little more information from you, but before we do that, can you give everybody your contact info, and then we can give it again at the end?
Absolutely. My email address is Brian, B-R-I-A-N, Brian at briankwright.com. So that's B-R-I-A-N-K-W-R-I-G-H-T, Brian at brianwright.com. And I would be very happy to hear from you. I also have a website, brianwright.com, and people can contact me through that. I also have something I'd like to give away. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
I would love to give away the first chapter to my book that you referenced, Success Profiles, Conversations with High Achievers. If you go to briankwright.com /S as in Sam, P as in Paul, 002. briankwright.com /SP002. You will see a picture of my book, Success Profiles, Conversations with High Achievers, and you'll see two buttons. One is for the free chapter. That puts you on my list. I'll just full disclosure. You opt in to get the free chapter. The other option is add to cart, which takes you to Amazon. So you can buy the book straight from this page too, but if you'd like to read a chapter for free first, you certainly have the option to do that.
Excellent. And I suggest everybody, at least go there, read the first chapter, and then decide for yourself if it's a fit for you. I know it's a fit for me. I was blessed to get a copy at a recent event. I've read it, and I think it's tremendous. So, Brian, we talked about taking action. We talked about people going to different events. Maybe there's one or two other things you might be able to tell people that they could use to. I like how you talked about, first of all, we can mention that person's name again, but who you just interviewed, and how people can get out of their business and start their own business. That's another book they could read. But there's a great book by Michael Gerber. So for those who are already in business, there's another book called E-Myth Revisited. And if you're in a business, if you have a business but sales aren't made, things aren't done unless you're the one getting up and doing it, then you really don't have a business, even if you're incorporated or you have an LLC. What you have is a job. So if you want to transition from being in your business to working on your business, and that will actually allow you to have a business, I encourage you to read Michael Gerber's book, E-Myth Revisited. And Brian, you mentioned a book about, so that's for somebody who's already in business, and they're the primary person. But now if somebody wanted to actually get out of being a W-2, an employee, and go into business, you mentioned that there is a book by somebody you just interviewed?
Yes, Anik Singhal, A-N-I-K-S-I-N-G-A-L, Anik Singhal. It's called Escape. And it talks about the 4 steps to going from being an employee to being an entrepreneur. And we will discuss that on my show later today. By the time people who are hearing the replay are hearing it, that show will have already aired. But you can go to successprofilesradio.com, and Anik Singhal is my guest, and that was an amazing book. Another book that talks about some of the same things that you just talked about is Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. He talks about the 4 quadrants. You're an employee, or you're self-employed, or you're in a business, or you're an investor. And he talks about going from one end of the spectrum to the other. That's another really insightful book about entrepreneurism and how you view money. And it's really an amazing read.
Yeah, and the story behind that, you've interviewed Sharon Lechter as well as I have several times, and she's a great person. But she actually co-wrote that book, and it was really a manuscript for a board game that Robert Kiyosaki came into their office with. And I don't want to give away the whole story, but it's amazing how that came to be.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, Sharon was a fantastic interviewer, and she is one of the people that I interviewed in that book that I just referenced, Success Profiles, Conversations with High Achievers. She's one of the people in the book. So is Darren Hardy, so is Jack Canfield, so is Tom Ziegler, so is Frank Shankowitz from the Make-A-Wish Foundation, Greg Reed, Eric Swanson, Don Green from the Napoleon Hill Foundation, just a lot of really amazing people. Loral Langemeier, it just goes on and on.
Excellent. That seems like a book to definitely read. Well, we're down to under 2 minutes. Is there anything left, that you'd like to say to people?
Yeah, final thoughts I usually like to wrap up with is believe in what you're doing. Don't ever give up. And if there are people in your life who are trying to drag you down or tell you that you can't, evaluate, are they more successful than you are? Have they done the thing that you're trying to do? Because it's really important. Feedback is only valuable if it is coming from someone who has achieved or is going in the direction that you want to go. Otherwise, it's just noise. So believe in yourself. Don't ever give up, and think big. I think a lot of us think way too small in life. We're not meant to play small. We are all given an amazing gift, and it is our job to figure out what that is and give it back to the world.
Excellent. And as soon as I started serving and stopped selling, I know my business, it doubled, and it's probably doubled since that point too when I started that. So the whole mindset is totally different, and it's you serve people, you don't sell to them, and the conversations are different. It's less. And people don't feel like you're taking, you're giving, and it's just a much better process. Brian, I want to say thank you very much for coming on and blessing us again with your experience, expertise, and some great tips. Everyone, remember that this episode is archived. You can go back and listen to it on WCAP 980 AM's website and also RCSTechnologySolutions.com website. You've been listening to Brian K. Knight on the Internet Marketing and Business Solutions radio show with Ron Couming of both RCS Technology Solutions and RCS Online Solutions, where we help business owners and entrepreneurs attract, convert, and retain their ideal customers and clients to achieve even greater success. Have a great week, everyone.